Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for January 30th, 2024. Well, as we wind down this month, my goodness, did we have a surge to the upside yesterday. We were pretty flat and choppy, and then all of a sudden, boom, the buyers just came in hard, stretching us up. What was interesting is that we did it on low volume. But before we get into that, how about we take a look at what happened overnight? First off, if we take a look at Asian markets last night, Asian markets finally had a reaction to the Evergrande liquidation order. We ended up finishing mostly lower, with Hong Kong and Shanghai kind of suffering the most overnight. European markets, however, are looking mildly bullish here this morning. They had their GDP data come out that said that they just barely squeaked through without falling into recession, but going into stagnation. So they're kind of celebrating over there just a little bit, having avoided the official recession. If we take a look here at U.S. markets, we have a little bit of bearishness this morning, with stock futures down across the board this morning. But they are already starting to tick higher. It's 5:41 in the morning here, and they're already starting to see a little bit of pre-market pump heading into the open. Let's take a look at oil. Oil is just flat, slightly lower here at the moment. We're finding that these geopolitical issues or concerns are kind of giving oil reason to hold in place. And we could really see those spike higher if that situation gets worse in the Red Sea. So keep an eye on that. If we take a look at bond yields this morning, our bond yields, well, we've been wiggling around here just a little bit on the bond yield, but the 10-year is falling this morning just a little tiny bit heading in, while the 2-year continues to hang in there pretty tough, not willing to do much of any selling. So we'll want to keep a close eye on that. There's an awful lot of confidence in the market that the Fed is going to be backing off on these rates here really soon, even though we haven't heard any of that conversation from the Fed. So it'll be interesting as we start that FOMC today. And remember, 2 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow is when we'll get the FOMC statement. So make sure you plan your risk accordingly. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Well, first off, as you can see, diamonds hitting new record highs yesterday, continuing to stretch. We are just incredibly bullish in the chart. Right here, there's every reason to believe that we could continue to stretch higher, even though we just really continue to push these PE ratios to extremes. The S&P 500 PE ratio is now 1.7 standard deviations above the historical norm, but there is just no sign of stopping here in the market as we head into some of these earnings. So if the bulls continue to push today, remember we've got blue sky above in the chart. I do think you want to be watching for that potential of a reversal that could occur at any time, but right now it's all bulls all the time. And if the bears were to find some kind of inspiration here, well, notice we've got a little price support in here that we've built right across the top of that platform. So any kind of a pullback, I'd look for a retest of that area. If that were to fail, then we're down here to that stronger area of price support. Now, failing this area, well, that's where it's going to hurt. if we drop down through that area, that's where it's going to get kind of rough. We'll want to watch that pretty closely. If we take a look at our SPY, also very bullish, new record highs, continuing to push hard to the upside yesterday. And it's interesting that we're doing that on lower than average volume. As a matter of fact, I can't quite remember a time when I've seen the indexes this thin. And what I mean by just a select number of stocks holding the markets up, rallying, and doing it with kind of a thin volume. Now, I don't know what that means, but I do get the impression that if the selling starts, it could be pretty damaging. So just be careful here as it stretches to the upside. Again, there is nothing in here that says that they're ready to sell yet. In fact, it's all buy all the time. And we're stretching this up in a pretty parabolic way on the S&P 500 at the moment. If those bulls can continue to find inspiration, remember, there's nothing up here but blue sky. We've got plenty of room to move up. If we were to find some bearish inspiration, then a pullback down to test this level of price support off the top of those candles certainly looks like the most logical place that we would go first. And then, of course, pushing on down into here, we start feeling a little bit more of that pain if we push on through. Once we get past that, there's not much support in here, that possibility that we could drop fairly hard back down into this area of the chart. So watch that carefully here on the SPY. Now, if the QQQ isn't impressive, well, I don't know what is. We continue to see the tech giants dominating the market, just absolutely dominating the market. As a matter of fact, if you really break it out, the Mag 7 and bigger techs included in there, probably a dozen, 15 stocks, are doing almost all of the exercise in lifting the QQQ up. And if you're frustrated in the NASDAQ, it's because you're not in one of those select companies, because everything else is not really moving all that aggressively. If we take a look here at the QQQ, you can see we didn't quite break out to a new high print, but we did have a new high close here on the QQQ. Very, very strong in the move yesterday, and that possibility that we can continue to push up. In the QQQ, you'll see that we do have a little bit of tick up there where we had made a higher high. We could see if we could push on through that today, and then above that, of course, is blue sky highs. If the bears were to come back, well, we've got a situation here where we pretty much don't have much support there except the bottom of that last little pullback. This is, by the way, a little bit of a kind of a Morningstar type pattern, which is a very bullish pattern off of price support. So if they can continue to hold that, well, we keep moving up. But if that were to pull back, then the only thing we could really look for is a pullback into here, giving up yesterday's move, and then maybe a little bit of support right in here before we come on back, maybe test that trend here in the chart and some of these support levels on these big gapping stretch out moves here in the market. Makes for a dangerous situation if the bears begin. We could see some big point moves if that were to happen. If we take a look at our IWM had a good day yesterday. So I turned this area right here. Remember yesterday, this was a red line. We have broke back above it. We held it as support. So now it's support in the chart. We held it and we start pushing to the upside. So if the bulls can find inspiration here today, let's look for a test of this resistance up in here in the chart. And you can see that goes back here quite a ways for some resistance here in the chart. If they can test that, then we start breaking through and we'll start looking for these next levels up here in IWM. If, however, those bears were to find inspiration today, then I would suggest a push back down into here and a good level of price support that could potentially hold it. If that does not hold, if this little consolidating area here were not to hold and we push on through, then I'm probably looking at some support down in here and then maybe even lower. Again, I want to point out the low volume that we had on this big surge yesterday in the market. Kind of an interesting way to push the indexes higher as we continue to stretch and stretch that select few companies to the upside. Let's take a look at the VIX. The VIX had an interesting day yesterday, gapping and then moving sharply higher on the day. And then that surge in the afternoon, that buying surge, it just seemed to come out of nowhere, pushed us all the way back down here in the chart. So we continue to maybe hold on to a little tiny upside trend. It's a very choppy upside trend, but no fear showing up here in the market as we head into an FOMC statement and the beginning of big tech earnings. So be watchful of that. With a little bit of selling coming in on the pre-market this morning, we could see that pushing back up here just a little bit. But if the bulls continue to just fight their way through any bad news, such as our manufacturing data yesterday that was horrible, but we don't care, and we keep pushing to the upside, we could certainly see this push right back down here to test some of these lows and showing us that bit of complacency here in the market. If we take a look at our T2122, fingers crossed that this is working. They were having trouble with this yesterday. T2122 certainly up here in the bearish reversal zone after that stretch to the upside. So if we continue to see that bullishness in the market, just realizing there's not a whole lot of push to the upside before we kind of tap that one out, we may be kind of reaching a stretch out point here in the market. And that's an interesting thing as we head into some of these big tech reports. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Doesn't mean we can't go higher, but just remember T2122 will not go above 100. And then if the bears were to find inspiration here in the market, then you'll notice that we've opened up a very big opportunity to the downside if for some reason we stumble here in the market. If we take a look at our T2108, now T2108, a little bit of an increase here yesterday, pushing up. Early on in the day, it was actually pushing down, and then that afternoon surge came in, and boy, it just stretched everything back to the upside strongly. So bulls are definitely in control, pushing up strongly. We'll want to watch a little bit of price resistance right through this area in the chart, see if we can push on through that, and then we start pushing back up to see if we can attack some of these highs, which again puts us up there in kind of that frothy area of the market if we push back up in there, but certainly doable the way the market is acting. And if the bears were to find that inspiration today, we see that little bit of bearishness in the market right now, maybe we come back and we test this little area of support right there in T2108. And remember, that's a percentage of stocks above the 40-day. And past that, there's some support here just below that 50 area of the market. If we take a look at our T2107, now T2107 also had a good surge. It was flat, not doing much of anything yesterday until all of a sudden we had that afternoon surge that kind of came out of nowhere, pumping things to the upside, and you can see right in here pushing strongly in T2107. So the percentage of stocks above the 200-day still looking very, very good, pushing back up here into some resistance levels of the chart. Just remember, anything into that 60, 65 range up here starts getting just a little bit frothy on T2107. We'll want to watch that. If the bears were to find inspiration today, I don't think there's too much worry here. We could come back, test a little bit of price support in the chart, and if we fall below there, notice we've still got price support right in here down around that 50% area of the market. So keep a close eye on that one. If we take a look at T2101, the T2101 showed us that little hook. Now what's interesting is all day long T2101 is showing us a breadth decline in the market, but that surge right at the end of the market here pushed us back up and showed that little bit of breadth increase here in the market. So we still have that possibility if the bulls can continue to find that energy pushing up here. Remember, we're still in that blackout period where big companies are unable to do their corporate buybacks and things like that, but we are getting more and more companies by the end of this week. More and more companies are going to be sliding out from underneath that, and there's probably a good chance that those big companies are going to announce massive buybacks this quarter. So keep a close eye on this. We could continue to see this surge to the upside if that were the case, and we really pick up. As a matter of fact, when we really start picking up in breadth is when we're seeing corporate buybacks going. If we don't see that occur today, watch this carefully. Get that little bit of bearishness. We would want to see breadth declining on a bear wave where the bears come in and push a little bit. We want to see that breadth pull back. That would continue to give bulls confidence to keep pushing. If we take a look at our economic calendar for today, now our economic calendar, boy, we're going to start picking up just a little tiny bit, and then it gets into kind of a fevered pitch Wednesday. First off, we've got the FOMC meeting starting today. Nothing will come out on that until tomorrow, but just kind of keep that in mind and plan your risk carefully heading into that FOMC meeting. I think anything is possible there. We've got Case-Shiller that will be coming out this morning, those home prices. That could be interesting this morning. Let's take a quick look. Case-Shiller is looking for a 0.4 decline in home prices here. So let's watch carefully for that. One of the things the market has done is it's been doing a lot of surprises in some of these numbers here lately and actually coming in hotter than expected. So watch that. FHFA will also be reporting today. House price index, they're looking at that to be flat here on the day. If we take a look, consumer confidence will be coming out, expecting confidence to move up to 112.5 from 110.7, showing the strength of the consumer. And then we're going to get this job openings report, and they're looking for 870 million in here, looking for a little bit more decline in the job openings number, which would be bullish for the Fed. We've got some bond announcements after that, and then, of course, we're going to be rolling into kind of a busy day tomorrow with that FOMC meeting being the highlight of the day, so plan carefully. Let's take a look at our earnings for today, and we've got a pretty good bunch of earnings. There's no way I'm going to cover them all here this morning, so make sure you click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog where you can catch that full list. First off, we've got Google that will be reporting today. Of course, Alphabet, Google L, will be reporting. So kind of keep that in mind. That'll be after the bell today. We've got Microsoft also after the bell today. So expect that we could see a substantial gap in the market Wednesday morning. And what that means is if we get really strong reports, we could gap up substantially Wednesday morning. If we happen to get some disappointment, we could see a gap down Wednesday morning. So make sure you plan your trading carefully and the risk that you have in the market. This afternoon, we're also going to hear from AMD. AMD will be reporting. This has been an incredibly big flyer in the market, and the PE ratio is incredible on this. In fact, analysts come out with a statement, and they just don't know what to do with it right now because its PE ratio is so high. So watch that one carefully on AMD after the bell today. Besides that, we're going to hear from, we got CCJ that's going to be reporting today. We've got GLW that will be on there. We've got Electronic Arts reporting today. We're going to hear from General Motors. Looks like General Motors is popping big time in the pre-market on their report, looking good there. We're going to hear from JetBlue today. JNPR will be this afternoon, so keep an eye on JNPR. We got MDLZ that will be reporting this morning. That looks like maybe trying to hold up in there on that report, so watch that. We've got Pfizer reporting today. We're going to hear from SWKS. So we've got quite a bit. Starbucks will be reporting today. TECK will be on the list today. We're going to hear from UPS. Oof, yikes, that hurt. UPS leaving a mark here, pretty ugly. Maybe suggesting that consumer slowing down. What do you think? Watch that carefully. So with that, everyone, let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, if you guys could do me this quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be to click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does do that. I truly appreciate it, and I do try to answer as many of those comments as I can. As you can imagine, it gets a little bit busy, but I try to answer them because they are so important to me. Thank you, everyone. For those of you who do take the time to do that, it means a lot to me. Now, let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. And remember, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Make sure you're doing your own due diligence. Make sure you're following your trade plan and your risk tolerance. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade idea. First off, I put on several alerts yesterday, and one of them popped in the afternoon when we got that stretch to the upside. Take a look at Martin Marietta. Now, one problem with this, if you're an option trader, boy, you look at the options and they just stink. The bid-ask spreads are really wide. Very expensive stock, and unfortunately, so many of these stocks that are moving right now are out of the reach for a big part of the market. Folks can't afford them, and even the options are just ridiculously priced. So kind of keep that in mind. But this is a very nice looking bullish chart to the upside. If for a stock purchase, I think this looks really good if you have the capital for it. Beautiful setup. We take a look at MasterCard stretched up through an alert yesterday, trying to push to the upside, showing lots and lots of bullishness here, continuing to press. So I keep an eye on some of those credit card providers, looking pretty good overall. Intuit Surgical, here's another one of those really expensive stocks that may be out of the reach for some folks, but Intuit Surgical, beautiful upside pattern here, stretching yesterday, trying to push through that alert. Keep an eye on that. There's every reason to believe that could push on through here to the upside. You might want to be keeping an eye on some stocks that are probably more in the realm of affordable for most folks, like DOCU. DocuSign's been consolidating in this nice resting pattern. Mentioned it yesterday. It did pop up just a little bit, but let's see if we can follow through and break that resistance here in the chart, pushing on up to that next level. Take a look at DocuSign, looking pretty good. That CTLT that I had alerted here the other day, pushing through to the upside. As you can see, that continued to stretch on up here nicely yesterday, pushing on through, looking really good. That Uber, you guys know I have a little bit of a bias on this, owning this trade. Uber's looking really good, continuing to push on through. We'll see if it can continue to follow up. Now, I will be closing this before the earnings report because there's so much danger in an earnings report. And who knows, I may even close this prior to the FOMC statement because the volatility that could create. But right now, I've got a really nice profit in this trade on Uber. Keep an eye on that one. You might want to keep an eye on Shopify. Shopify made that move yesterday, popping my alert, trying to push on higher here, looking really good in that chart, continuing to push. If we take a look at Walmart, as you guys know, I've been talking about this for some time, finally making that move, maybe stretching up here into that next resistance in the chart. Remember, this is going to report on 220. You'll want to be paying attention to that closely, how that moves on through to that resistance, or maybe even pushes on higher than that heading into its earnings report. So there are just a ton of stocks that are actually really nice setups in the market. Quite a long list of those. I can't cover them all. One of the things I wanted to talk about here just quickly to wrap up the video. First off, today we are doing an open house in Right Way Options. So that means if you're listening here and never been in Right Way Options, come on over. We'll be there all day long in the RWO room. Come on over. We'll talk about things. And if you're available this evening, it's going to be a busy day for me. If you're available this evening, I'm going to be doing a public e-learning class on finding the right trade. You know, I'm showing you all of these stocks with these alerting patterns and alerted setups. I'm going to do a class talking about that, how I find those trades, and it's actually not as hard as you think. So if you're available this evening, come on over. And I would love to help you out this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern in our free public trading room. Let's take a look at just a couple more things here in the market. TLT, we've been seeing these bonds pulling back here just a little bit. This is going to be really, really important to the market, is how currency is handled here right now, and we're seeing a little bit of a break back to the upside here, breaking that downtrend. Now, I don't think this is all that bullish on the daily chart. Breaking through that resistance is a good thing, but any rest or pullback then sets up that higher low and gives us that more confident look to the upside. So keep an eye on TLT. I will tell you, however, if you take a look at this on a longer term chart, that's a pretty darn good looking chart right there. And that possibility, if we hold in here, those bond yields could start pulling back in, and we could start seeing TLT be bought up heavily. And I think if we break out of this downtrend here on this, we're going to see a big surge of major banks and things like that really starting to pick heavily up on those bonds. Now, I can't say that's going to happen. I'm just saying right now we're seeing some pretty good patterns starting to show up in some of these bonds, so watch that carefully. With that, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here and listening this morning. I truly appreciate it. Hope to see you in the trading room today on our open house, and also hope to see you in our e-learning this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until tomorrow, be careful, be safe, have a great day, and I'll see you first thing Wednesday morning. Wish you all the best, everyone.